Welcome back to Life in Review. I'm Josefa Salinas, your host. Well, when I first heard about this, my mind immediately went to a number of movies I've seen and kind of gave me a little chill. But from what I understand, lots of people, even I think Barbara Streisand, are doing it. What am I talking about? Cloning pets. Yep. You got a favorite one? You might be able to have another one. With us to talk about it today is Melain Rodriguez. I said it right. How are you this morning, Melain?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you on here. And I just got to ask right away, how are you involved with cloning pets?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
I'll tell you. So I started with the company about 12 years ago. And, I've got a science background, always been interested in this. And I was just lucky enough to become a part of this company. When I started back in those days, we were primarily cloning livestock. So this cloning has been widely done in the livestock industry with cattle and pigs and horses. And then pet preservation, preserving the cells for pets was something that we did as well. And then we just started cloning dogs and cats about 5 years ago. And there's been a huge interest in it. So now we're only cloning dogs, cats, and horses. And it's really growing. Our pets are our babies. And unfortunately, their lives are so short compared to ours, and it's not really fair. So I think what we do can help that.
So I have to ask, because, of course, we've all seen Pet Sematary and a couple of other movies where the pets come back and then all of a sudden they're standing by your bedside looking at you going,
Right.
So, that's the kind of the vision that people have when they think of a cloned, pet, and then they see the, the horror stories with the cloned people. So how do you clone an animal? How does that work?
So it all starts with your veterinarian taking a small skin biopsy sample from your pet. And we've got a biopsy kit that we would ship to you, and it has everything that your vet needs to take these skin biopsy samples. So all of your pet's DNA is right there in their skin. The vet takes a very tiny, it's a 4 millimeter punch biopsy of skin. They can do it with just a local anesthesia. And then this little skin sample comes back to our lab, and it goes into culture. And we will grow millions of cells from these little tiny pieces of skin. And so we grow these cells, and then we can freeze these cells and keep these cells stored. And that's the first step. That's genetic preservation. That gets you the cells that we would ultimately need for cloning. So that's what a lot of our clients are doing, just keeping these cells stored for now, because the price for cloning is quite high at this point. So it's $50,000 for a dog, $35,000 for a cat, and $85,000 for a horse. So you can keep these cells stored indefinitely, and then you can move on to cloning whenever you're ready. And how the cloning part works is I sort of like to equate it with IVF because it is very similar. We take an egg from, let's say, for a dog, it's an egg from a donor dog, and we remove the nucleus from that egg. So now all the nuclear DNA is removed. Essentially, it's just an empty shell. And then we put in one of those millions of cells that we had cultured from the skin sample that goes into this egg. They're fused together. That's sort of the magic of cloning, what happens there. And an embryo starts to grow. So now all the DNA in this egg is from your dog's cell. And we make these embryos in a dish, and then they get transferred into a surrogate dog. And then she has a normal gestation and gives birth to a puppy that is now an identical genetic twin to the original pet.
Now, see, I wish I had known about this. I don't know if I could have afforded it, but I had a dog that was the most amazing dog I've ever had. He was so smart, such a brilliant guard dog, and I would have given anything to have another one of him. So let's say just, do a wild willy-nilly here thought. Had I been able to afford it, if I had done that, and then they had done this, would that dog have looked and acted just like the other dog, or just looked like the other dog?
So that's a great story, or a great question, and probably the number one question that we get, because that's why we love our pets, right? Their personality. So what we have learned in the years that we've been cloning dogs and cats is that genetics plays a huge role in the temperament of the animal, and the personality and the intelligence. So what you could expect would not be an exact replication of that pet, because they're going to have different experiences that will shape the personality. But that underlying temperament and intelligence is going to be very, very similar. There's a huge correlation there with genetics. And then as far as looks, you think about identical twins. They have the exact same DNA, and they're going to look very, very similar. Sometimes only their mother can tell them apart, right? But sometimes they do have slight differences that you could see, maybe a little bit different. So let's say in freckles. If they have freckles, their freckles may be in a different place. And that's sort of what can happen with a cloned dog, is that their markings could be slightly different. Now, if you have a standard marking dog, let's say like a Doberman Pinscher, they're going to have a standard markings. But if you have a spotted dog, like a Dalmatian, those spots could be in different locations. So the spots could be a different shape and size, but the shape of the body, the shape of the head, the shape of the ears, the shape of the jaw, all of those things are genetic. So those are going to be very, very similar in the cloned animal.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question. So my dog, the cloned dog, because the other dog had gone through massive guard and attack training, that isn't transferred in DNA.
So no, some of our clients think that there is some transfer there because they're seeing these phenomenal traits in the cloned animal that they can't explain otherwise. I've actually talked to a gentleman who cloned his service dog, and there's 2 clones of that dog, and he says that the clone dogs know things that they weren't taught. That the original dog knew. Now, I don't know. that's kind of, it's amazing. But yeah. I think we're learning more and more what's actually passed on there in the DNA.
So do you have any great stories of people who have like cloned their animal and then, something really cool, a story that would make you go, oh, that's awesome?
They're all great stories. And the amazing thing is that all of our clients that clone their pets, they all do it. They have this similar bond, and that is this amazing love and admiration for their special pet. If you've never had that bond with your pet, you may not understand why somebody would want to do this. But if you've been lucky enough to have this amazing bond, then you don't want to lose that bond. You want to be able to experience that bond again, and that's what cloning can do for you. So the stories are just amazing. I should write a book, I think, because I just heard such amazing stories about how similar the cloned pet was. We've just recently cloned a little French bulldog for a client, and the original dog was still alive when he began this cloning process, and the original dog passed away the day that the cloned puppy was born. And that, I just can't explain that. That's like a miracle. It's just amazing. And so this puppy means so much, even more to this client than it would have before, because it is literally a replacement, born on the same day the other one passed. That's incredible.
Oh gosh, that's a story right there. So yeah. I know that, when, a lot of us are at home, we're not going out as much as we have gone out before. And I don't know what I would do without my dogs. I mean, my dogs are such a big part of my life. I have 3 huge German Shepherds, and they're just, they're amazing. And each one of them has their own personality, and each one serves kind of their own purpose in my life. One of them is with me all day, all the time. And the other 2, kind of just patrol around, and then they come in at night. And, dogs, and I hear cats. I don't know. I had a cat once, but the cat was an outside cat. So she would come when we called her. She would fetch things like a dog. She acted like a dog. I guess that's why I like that cat. But I only know dogs because that's what I've had. And there really is such a connection between people and animals.
Yeah.
And do you think that this is the reason that's propelling people to say, gosh, I really want to clone my pet?
Absolutely. And I think now even more than before, being indoors all day long with our pets, getting to spend more time with them than we normally would have been able to, has made people realize how special our pets are to our lives and what special bonds we have with them. And the thought of them not being around for as long as we'd like them to can be very sad. So we've definitely seen a lot of increase in our genetic preservation service. So while not everybody can afford the $50,000 to clone a dog, preserving the DNA is $1,600. So that's something that's a little more affordable. You can store the cells now for that potential of cloning at some point down the road. So, I think that we're seeing more and more clients do that preservation with the hope to be able to clone someday.
And now this is a scientific question. Just call me crazy, but cloning to some people is crazy. So, can you mix I like this about this dog. I like this dog's size. Can I mix some of that DNA to come up with this super hybrid dog that I really love?
So not at this point. With cloning, you're replicating that DNA. So it's going to have the exact same, if it's a mixed breed dog, that clone dog is going to have that exact same mixture of all those different breeds, which is a pretty cool application for cloning. If you have a dog that has 20 different breeds in it, you can never replicate those breeds again, only through cloning. So we're not able to do any sort of genetic modification at this point, and change anything about the DNA. So the sex of the dog is always going to be the same sex as the original because it's an identical twin, and it's always going to be that same breed or mixture of breeds.
So we can't mix up the DNA then. See, I'm getting into Dr. Frankenstein here.
And you just do that through conventional breeding, and that's what that would accomplish.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I was like, okay, I love the size of Jack, but I love Angel's temperament and Henry's craziness. So I would like to mix that all up in one dog. Okay. So do you think it's going to get any cheaper moving forward? I mean, because, right now some people might be able to afford, keeping the DNA, but $50,000 for a dog is, whew.
Yeah, we do expect that the price will drop at some point. We've been cloning horses for almost 18 years, and horse cloning at one point was $165,000. And we cloned a lot of horses at that price. We've been able to refine the cloning technology for horses over the years, the more and more horses that we've cloned. So now we've been able to decrease that cost down to $85,000, so almost in half. And that's what we expect with the dog and cat cloning. The more and more that we clone, the more we're able to refine those cloning technologies, then we should be able to decrease those costs as well.
Well, it sounds exciting. Is there a website where people can go for more information all about pet cloning in case they want to clone their pet?
Absolutely. Our website is viagenpets.com, and there's lots of good information there, some frequently asked questions. We've got some videos on YouTube that you can take a look. Those are very helpful. You can also shoot us an email through our website. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. There's lots of myths surrounding cloning out there, so if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of myths. Like I said, when I first heard of pet cloning, because this isn't the first time I've heard of it, but it's one of the first interviews I've done on it. I immediately thought of, Pet Cemetery and a few other movies where, the pets come back and then it's pets gone wild, so.
Right. But Hollywood hasn't done us any favors with that.
No, but you know what? When you told me the story about the French Bulldog and how the French Bulldog cloned puppy was born the same day that the other one died, I immediately thought of the movie A Dog's Purpose.
Yeah.
Because that whole thing is all about, a dog, how a dog comes back to life in other dogs and, then ends up finding his, master years down the road. But the dog is still alive. Their little soul goes into another dog. So maybe that's exactly what happened with that little French Bulldog.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for being with us. And gosh, when this technology advances, or if there's any more cool things in the technology, please come back and talk with us. I know it's definitely got people thinking this morning.
All right. I certainly will. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Stick around. There's a whole lot more coming up.